Hello, everyone. Thanks for sticking it out. My name's Ryan Lattanzio, and I write for Indiewire. And I'd like to bring out the director and some cast members from Punk's Dead, if you guys want to come out. So if you guys just want to go one by one and introduce yourselves and who you played in the film.
Do I have to start? I'm James Merendino. I didn't play any part in this movie. Thank you.
Sarah Clarke, played Trish.
I'm Machine Gun Kelly. My government name is Colson Baker, and I play Crash.
I'm Hannah Marks. I play Penny.
And I'm Bond. I play Vagabond. I'm James Duval. I play Johnny Jekyll, a.k.a. John the Mud.
So Punk's Dead had its theatrical premiere for a public audience about a week ago in Salt Lake City. So it was a bit of a hometown screening for this film. So I don't know how many of you guys were all there, but maybe you could just talk about the experience of showing it to an audience for the first time.
Well, I was there, and it was pretty amazing. I mean, I had no idea that the audience would be that enthusiastic. But, this movie's a movie for fans, and they ate it up. I mean, anyone that missed it, you really missed something, because it was amazing, right?
Yeah, it was incredible, and everyone wanted hugs after and pictures and loved
Like
the
the second most asked for after selfies were hugs. They wanted hugs from us. Yeah.
Loved a hug.
Punk
Very
as fuck.
hippie.
Well, it was unfortunate because I actually missed the Salt Lake screening, the premiere, because I brought the wrong passport to the airport. But I made the Burbank
So
screening.
punk.
So yeah, nobody knew I was.
Even more punk.
At the last minute, I think I said I was going, but nobody knew that anybody from the film was going to be there. So when I went to go watch, it was completely unprejudiced, unadulterated, and it was really surprising to see the fans kind of. Like, I felt myself jumping on this wave with them, and laughter and excitement, and I made the movie, and I don't remember it being that fun.
Oh, you were in
it was pretty
Burbank?
fun.
You were at the Burbank screening?
I was at the Burbank screening.
So it's been about almost 2 decades since the original SLC Punk opened Sundance in 1998. But James, you've wanted to do a sequel for a while, so I was wondering if you could talk about the origin story of Punk's Dead and why maybe in 2016, why that maybe is the right time finally to have told the story.
Money. No, I'm joking. Actually, there's. If anyone believes that, it's completely ridiculous. No, I had wanted to tell a story about. I wanted to go back and tell a story about outsiders in Salt Lake City because I grew up in Salt Lake City, and I felt like, well, I was young and naive when I made the first movie, and it was a rather didactic story, and I wanted to go back and sort of maybe tell something a little more, I don't know, honest or less, less in your face or less presumptuous. And at the same time, I had written a story when I made SLC Punk about a character who was very important to me. And I never got a chance to tell the story about this particular character, who was a guy who, like Ross in this movie, thinks that he is an armor of philosophical gold in which that he can't be heard. The emotions are meaningless. They're something that are invented, and that death is the only real reason that we live until his heart is until he's gutted by a girl. And so I literally just lifted that character out of that story, and I built a story around that character, and I set it in Salt Lake City. And of course, it was ridiculous not to call it SLC Punk 2, though originally just called Punk's Dead. But that's the origin of that.
So we have a mix of original cast members from the first film as well as new ones. So I guess I wanted to ask all of you guys, whether you were coming on board for the first time or returning once again to reprise your original roles. what your relationship has been with the movie over the years, and how that shaped your performances in Punk's Dead.
I know the movie for me was, a childhood favorite that I grew up with. I modeled my life after for many years. I was a punk when I was growing up. I still consider, that mentality a big part of who I am. And, there's that stigma about, I think, when you're 18 that you're, like grown up and supposed to have found yourself. But, I can look, it's just like when you look back at pictures of you like 3, 4, 5 years ago, you're like, good God, who let me leave like that? Like, and, like you're trying to find yourself, and, 18 is not like it's something magical doesn't happen, like life hits you in the ass and kicks you in the balls, but like, you still haven't figured it out yet. So, I mean, I was trying to find myself. I all of a sudden hear that, whether it was a reprise or whatever it was, like I knew if it was SLC Punk, like whatever like factor of it, I wanted to be involved. And it just so happened that when you read the script, you're like, holy shit, this guy's trying to find himself too, so it just hit at a perfect time in my life, I think.
It was the same for me. I was a fan of the original movie. I loved the relationship between Steve-O and Heroin Bob, and I felt like if I could be in a movie that portrays a friendship like that again, then I would be really, really lucky. So I kind of stalked you into getting the part.
Yeah, me too.
That's totally untrue, but
Completely true.
I was involved in the original. I played John the Mon in the original, kind of just popping a little bit, and throughout. And when James had written the sequel and contacted me about it, it actually, to me, made a lot of sense, especially this transition for the character, which we kind of didn't want to reveal right away. If for fans of the original, if you remember, it's my girlfriend who feeds Bob that pills that he ODs on. So you figure that would have some kind of lasting effect. Like, it's not too weird that he would be this black metal guy 20 years later. His girlfriend killed one of the guys in town without being heavy-handed about it, though. So it's still fun and it's still dynamic. And then you have all these new characters that these wonderful people have brought to life to kind of bring everything full circle, because the other guys is like, except for Michael Goorjian, who plays Bob, he's the eternally Bob. The rest of us have kind of evolved and changed, just like punk rock. So that was a really kind of cool thing to go back and play with.
And you came back to play. Trish was a character played by somebody else, and she played it right the first time. I'm very happy with what Annabeth Gish did, but Sarah Clarke owned this. It's a much more important part in this movie to me, because it's a single mother who's trying to figure out how she fits in as a kind of a bohemian and also raise, a nutty kid. And it is important to me because my mother passed last year, and so when I was approaching this movie in the editing phase, I was like, "Wow, this is kind of about like, wow, a lot to do with my mother." So you really did a wonderful job.
Oh, thank you. I was thrilled when you asked me, because I was such a fan of the first one, and I was intimidated at first because I knew everyone that was returning had this sort of experience before, and I wanted to honor it as much as I could and jump in. But I felt like you gave me so much to work with, and Ben, as my son, he was so alive and just so easy to work off of. And then, of course, putting me in that world with that shop with Jen Jaffe, so hysterical in the movie. I just love her. And then, of course, when you guys show up, and Devin and everybody, so it made it really easy to come in.
Ben had a crush on you. Sorry, it's true.
They call that
Sorry,
the Oedipus
Xander,
complex.
So I'm curious how many of you guys have seen the original SLC Punk? Okay, so a good many of you. So do you guys hope that this is, did you want this to sort of be, a love letter to fans, or are you hoping that it sort of stands on its own and plays as its own
Both.
movie?
I wanted to stand on its own and be a love letter to fans. I mean, I wanted to be a love letter to outsiders anywhere. So, maybe I achieved it, maybe I didn't, but I really wanted to be inclusive in this story. Look, the movie, it's not much. I mean, it's not like, it's not about the sort of struggles of a handicapped individual who's trying to climb Mount Everest with Yeah, I mean, it's really just, you know, it's just life. You know, I mean, and yet I didn't want to go after school special with the whole thing with Penny and her dad. I mean, I just wanted to say like these are people, and then of course, you know, yeah, there's this whole point during the punk show where Bob talks about the weirdos and we're all here, and I don't know. I was hoping to make people laugh. I wanted to make something beautiful. I wanted to make something fun, and I wanted to maybe, you know, make people feel a bit nostalgic and maybe even wipe away a loose tear. I don't know. So those are the reasons why it exists. I'm sorry. That's the reason.
I think there's some really special moments in this movie that reflect a lot of the messages that, you know, we learned from the first one. Like there's certain messages in the first one that I like took for the rest of my life, and there's this really great montage at the end, like towards the end, where they talk about what it is to be a fan and what it is to be at the concert, and like that feeling, right? Like for some of us, being in front of one of our favorite bands singing lyrics that like make our skin crawl, that's the freest I'll ever feel, you know. And like I think that was really special that it was pointed out, and I thought it was so beautifully worded, and you know, like that was one of those things that, being a part of it or not, if I saw that would like mean something to me forever. And I hope that, you know, people see that are so lost in the cell phone age. I hope that people like see something like that and are like, holy shit, like maybe I could look at things like much differently. And you know, because people like things like concerts, you know, that should never go away. You know what I mean? Like that is punk rock. You know, like being in there sweaty, hearing things that we love, like that was great. I thought the punk the montage to all the different like punk subcategories is like fucking genius, because it needs, you know, people need to know about that culture. It's kind of like, you know, like it's slowly fading out, and I don't want it to go away. So, you know, I think it's cool, man. Hopefully someone sees a category of that and is like, holy shit, that's me. I'm that. Oh my God, I found something to relate to. Maybe there's more people like me. Maybe I'm not so weird.
Those people are never really on film. And speaking of the cell phone generation, I think what's so cool about Punk's Dead is we finally get to the concert and nobody's on their phone and nobody's recording the people that are playing. Everyone's actually just watching. So I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
So this is an independent film, and you know that often means, you know, a lot of time management and hurry up and wait and sort of putting everything together with duct tape and glue and paper clips for a lot of indie filmmakers anyway. So I'm curious to know about the shooting schedule, how long it was, and what kind of rehearsal you did, and what
Did
that
we
process
rehearse
was.
at all? No.
Dude, I want to give you the best James Merendino quote. All right, here we go. We're filming. Randomly one day, I'm not wearing this white necklace that I wore every other day, right? It's a beer can opener, a beer bottle opener. And we shot, like, it just happened to be the day that we shot like 6 fucking scenes. And I go to James and I'm like, all right, man, you're gonna kill me. We may have to reshoot the whole day. Like, I don't have this white this white necklace on. And he looks at me, he goes, continuity's for posers, man.
Damn right. And that is punk rock.
I think you also broke your glasses too.
Everything. I was terrible with my costume. And
13-day shoot, 8 hours a day. So, I mean, we just powerhouse through this. Maybe some sound dropouts would have been better if we had longer. But the performances were great, and we didn't rehearse any. Did we rehearse? I don't recall rehearsing.
Right before we did the take.
Rehearsals
maybe
for
a
posers.
No, I
for
rolled
camera.
on all those takes, so
Yeah.
no, we didn't rehearse any.
For camera.
I told you we were rehearsing, but we weren't rehearsing. It was just,
Was it 13 days?
Yeah,
Wow.
including the concert and all that stuff.
But it was exciting. I think by the time everyone showed up, we were just ready to go. We just wanted to make the thing. We were eager, like horses out of the gate.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the beauty of this movie is like a lot of the behind the scenes thing that was happening. Like that concert scene, most of the people there didn't know that it was a movie being filmed. Like most of them really booed and hated Ben when he got the mic.
He almost got killed, man.
Like they didn't know that it was a movie. It was like 2000 like true punks watching a great show. Like these people were naked, everything's crazy. And then like this, then this fucking like Jack White guy comes on stage and just like stops the whole show and just is like, you know, talking shit or whatever. And I mean,
it's beautiful. What
yeah,
he
and
says.
dude, they had no idea. They were throwing shit. I mean, a lot of, I don't even know if it kept some of the.
No, it's there. Yeah,
they were
was
not
scared
feeling
too.
it.
What does he say? He says something like, "I'm gonna fuck all of you right now." You're all my bitches.
Am I right?
I can fuck all of you right now.
I just like lost it when I watched it.
So everyone at the concert wasn't told not to use their cell phones. They just didn't.
No, but there were. I suggested guys don't do that. But I mean, like, because there were 2 days. One day where we had, you know, these Indiegogo extras that came in to shoot a smaller, where we can actually have dialogue and have the band pantomime. And then the second day was a full-on punk show with bands that they recognized. So they really didn't care about us. We just floated a camera, and I planted cameras all through the audience.
Yeah. So how did the style of this shoot and the overall climate compare to SLC Punk and shooting that in, you know, the late '90s?
I'm sorry, I don't understand.
Oh, just like well, you shot digitally for
Yes,
Punkstead,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And SLC Punk probably shot.
Panavision and anamorphic lenses, yeah.
Yeah. So you know, was there a difference in approach, or you know?
No, I always pretty much just hit it running. I mean, SLC Punk we had an extra week, right? We
Yeah, we
shot
had
it
another
3
weeks on that.
Yeah, but we had $2 million instead of $200,000.
Yeah, those are the two.
So
I
there's a
think, biggest-
big difference there. No, thank you. But I mean, there's difference. I mean, because it's a little more. I had a trailer.
Well, there's certainly there's a little bit more.
Yeah.
There's more limitations, I think, even though there's more access in the future with technology and digital cameras. You know, you don't have the money, you don't have the time, and that seems to be the run of the mill.
But I always felt like whatever amount of money you have, whether you like this movie or not, it's an ambitious movie, and you should, you know, as filmmakers, you should always be ambitious. You should always, you know, I was like, well, I have 50 grand, so I'm going to just make a movie on my iPhone. Take 50 grand and spend it like it's, you know, $5 million. Just you know, that's the only way that independent movies are going to keep going to theaters and be saved. It's not going to be, you know, saved by some kind of committee that's, you know, complaining to Hollywood about, you know, independent movies aren't working. It's going to work with interesting ideas. And I'm not saying that this one has particularly like an interesting idea, but it's doing good at the box office. So that is helping every other independent movie, because, you know, a lot of the independent movies don't see the box office, and if you don't get to screen it, the screens they're showing on all over the country right now, 30, 40 cities, they're huge, and they're coming out to see it. So either you have to get a fan base, or you have to do something interesting, and you have to be ambitious. And that's so I guess if you're talking about style, I was trying to be ambitious then, and I was trying to be even more ambitious now. I mean, even though one could argue that maybe the movie isn't that huge, but it's ambitious. I mean, you know, try to make a bigger movie.
Well, you mentioned earlier Indiegogo, which was you know, a cool way to not only fund the movie but also, you know, give something to fans that were passionate about the original and maybe wanted to crowdfund it. And you know, the nice thing about Indiegogo is that you get to keep whatever funds that you raise versus Kickstarter, where you sort of have to meet you know, a quota. So can you talk a little bit about that, and would you recommend that as a model?
Absolutely
for
not.
indie
And it's
filmmakers?
terrifying, because if you don't hit your mark, you still have to give them a movie. So let's say we asked for $90,000 and we got $10,000. What am I going to do? Either I'm going to, because they take 5%, so either I have to pay everybody back and then pay an extra $5,000, or I have to make a movie for $20,000. So like, it's dangerous and terrifying. I mean, literally, like it's just a horrible process. Also, I had to make this stupid like campaign thing where I look like a fool, and then people like Vice magazine like break it down and like, oh my God, Merendino is a fool. And they said, like, they're talking like, oh, what is these fonts he's using? They criticized the fonts. Oh my God. So I mean, I had been criticized for this movie before, like 2 years before I actually made it. I was being criticized for it. So don't. Do it. But it worked out in the end.
Yeah. What?
Thank you. Thank you.
I got to say, over the years, James, I've seen you battle and come out on top on quite a few different movies. I've been literally right next to your side while you've done that.
Yeah.
Arguments with producers in Europe halfway through a shoot, like, "Where's our money? It was supposed to be here last week." And I won't repeat what he said, but after James finished saying what he said, which I mentally noted for a lifetime, we had the money the next day. So that was a really interesting learning experience. I'll tell you guys later.
Punk's Dead is a pretty bold, statement for a title. So, now in 2016, how do you feel the sort of meaning or definition of what
That
Punk
title
has
it's coming from a crass song called Punk's Dead. It's an ironic title. Punk music is ironic. It's not meant to be taken. I mean, and secondly, I could also say, well, Punk's dead, long live Punk. But on the other hand, the narrator of the movie is a dead punk. So the punk's dead.
That's what I thought it meant.
So that's really what I'm talking about. It's a dead guy talking about punk. The punk is dead. Punk's dead. So no, I'm not suggesting that punk is dead at all. Obviously not, because the movie's doing well. And even more, those bands in that soundtrack are doing very well. Thank you. Yes, the soundtrack. That was a tough one. Shout out to the producers and Severine, Andrea, and I mean, like, that's not a $200,000 soundtrack. They really pulled some strings. We have Bowie in that soundtrack, right? I mean, like, wow. So lucked out on that.
Is there anyone in the audience that wants to ask any questions?
Just
Well,
throw 'em out.
because otherwise we do. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was a fan of the first one. And it just reminded me a lot about, kind of drinking and driving when I was younger too. Like going to the mosh pits. I mean, it hit, it was almost, it's in that genre, that's where I was at the time too. Like, you see this movie, I was like, grew up in a small town in Mexico, we go to Albuquerque, mosh pits, bands that would come. But, I mean, what was it that gave you the idea to, was it like that out there? Was it...
Salt Lake City? Yeah, it was there. Yeah, there's a. You couldn't get beer either, right? Well, you could, but it's like 3 point, so you have to drink twice as much.
Or you could drive to Wyoming.
Or go to Wyoming, which we definitely did. Yeah. We drove to Wyoming to get beer, but they had, okay, the truth is that scene in this movie is about 2,000 plus people at that concert. In SLC Punk, I had also a similar punk show where 200 people came and they were invited guys come out to a show. So it's clearly bigger because they didn't come for the movie. They came for the bands. So that's a real show. So that's really Salt Lake. Those people. One girl, did she break her leg, her arm? A girl who that was in the pit broke her leg, went to the hospital in an ambulance, like they called an ambulance, and she, got it set, put on a cast, took some Percodan, and came back.
If we could take another question, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Sure, go ahead.
I have a question. Given the conservative nature of the state of Utah, and especially after the success of the first film, what was it like going back to shoot in Utah since they basically had an idea of what you were up to?
The question is about shooting. In case
Yeah,
anyone
they
didn't
gave me
hear
no
it.
trouble whatsoever. They were really like, the scene has grown and everybody's really, and there's this mayor that they elected, not when we were shooting it, but she was going to come to the premiere. It's the first openly gay mayor in Salt Lake City. So they're being pretty progressive. Yeah.
Cast is such big chemistry. Especially the three friends on the road trip. For me personally, I was like, no. My question was, did you specifically cast for that, and for the cast of you guys?
I'll throw that to them. What do you think?
We hung out the whole time. Yeah, every single night. We would shoot, and then we'd go out and
Yeah, what?
Moscow Mules at Whiskey Street. And yeah, and then the next morning we'd all get breakfast and do it again, and it was the best time ever.
Yeah, James, were you auditioning them together, or how
No, I auditioned them all separately. And what was interesting though that I think Hannah, you guys,
We met before, yeah, because we got our hair dyed
and then
together.
Ben
and
came
wardrobe
in later,
fittings
so
and
it
stuff.
was an interesting dynamic because that is the dynamic.
Yeah, it was cool too, because I think our first day we went to this outdoor mall, and we just walked around and got to know each other, and there were so many Mormon kids and then punk kids, and we were like, fuck yeah, this is what the movie's about. We're here. These are the people that this is for. I mean, not the Mormons, really, but but mostly.
Yeah, I had a blast, man. I mean, like, I got to walk. I stayed in my costume. Like, it's not a costume really, but just whatever the proper actor word for that is my wardrobe. I stayed in my wardrobe, and dude, I just felt like that was honestly probably like one of the happiest I've ever felt in my life. Like I didn't have any like weight on myself as a musician. I mean,
Except for the jacket.
Yeah, dude. 35 fucking pounds probably. I'm from Cleveland. I got the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame to put that jacket in there and shit. So it's on display a couple feet away from like the Stones and Jimmy and all this other stuff. So that was pretty cool.
Woo!
I was going to ask about this is we're at SAG, and just recently saw the Directors Guild. A friend of mine, Jeremy Kagan, interviewed all the directors that were up for the Directors Guild, and he asked each of them about their casting process. And that last question made me wonder what you did, how you approached it. What was with each, was he different with each one, or what was your general approach to the material and to the interview process?
Yeah, he's asking about the process of casting in the early stages as you were assembling everybody.
Well, I had some actors that already were in the movie, so I asked them to come back. And then Sarah said, okay, so I was like very lucky about that.
I think me and Hannah again stalked him for it.
And then,
Yeah.
but Susan Shotmaker, who was the casting director on the movie, put people on tape. Not him, but I think.
Yeah, well, she had cast me before.
Yeah.
And so I basically got a hold of her because I read on the internet that she was doing
But she was
it.
really worried that you weren't going to say fuck strong enough or whatever and not be
I
tough
don't know,
enough.
but yeah, I wanted-
So the casting director, but I don't like to audition. I don't like to sit and have actors read. I prefer to meet with them, see what they've done, and feel, and then talk to them and see if that there is some kind of dialogue that we can have to where it will be effective for a particular part. So I never read. I never have people come in and just read for me. I just hopefully the casting director will, casting directors can be really great, and if they suggest certain people, and then they say like, look at this work they've done. I'd rather just look. The tape is all echoey and it doesn't make any sense to me. Watch something they've done. I watch it. I'm like, oh, that seems exciting. Let me talk to this person. And if they've read the script and they have a good feel and we connect, that's sort of how I cast. And that's how I cast Ben, and that's how I cast Hannah, and that's how I cast Colson. Thank you, Xander.
Together, the chemistry was great, and especially seeing this, we'd watched it on the small screen of the computer. And it was so great to see, not even on a big screen, just that big a screen.
Yeah.
And, when you say you're a keeper, I was just right there. I think I should wear my little fairy.
Oh, there it is.
Oh, yeah.
There it was. Yeah, there's a little terror there sitting on a cheek.
Well, I remember the day I reached Susan to try and audition for this, she was like, well, I'm auditioning today. You can come in at 12. And I had to leave the airport at like 12:30 or something. So I ran and bought a dog collar, put it on to be punk, and then showed up and auditioned for her. And she was like, great, I want you to meet James. But I couldn't because I was flying. She was like, okay, you can Skype. And I was like, fuck that. So I bought a flight right back to come meet you.
You did all that?
Yep. So I really, really wanted to meet you regardless of if I got it.
Well, moved.
So just to close, do you see a trilogy in mind for these films? Is there more? Would you guys want to tell more to this
Next
story?
movie, he's got to go to Mordor, and he's got to destroy that ring. I don't know. I've talked about it. There's another script, so I'm gonna have to throw it away because it's a whole other script, and it's Steve-O-centric, and it's a much bigger movie, and it takes place all over the world, and it's sort of like a fantasy because I don't know if I could ever raise the kind of money to make that movie, but if I could, yeah, I would do it. This other thing. Yeah.
I think I speak for all of us when I say we would jump on board in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Well, thank you guys so much for sitting down with us.
Thanks for coming out, everyone.